Good morning to all of you. So, today we are going to study the third part of ethical and cultural issues in nursing. So, this topic will be basically concentrating on the cultural issues, rest all we have already completed. Now, cultural issues in pediatric nursing. Pediatricians live and work in a multicultural world. Okay, what this is the place where we live. Every group or every small groups, they have their own culture. So, depending on the culture, they decide how to, especially in taking care of newborn babies, what care you want to give, when do you want to start feeding, when are you going to give bath. So many issues are there which are totally dependent on the culture. Okay. So, pediatrics as such is very closely related to culture, and many a times cultural the the type of culture which is adopted for newborn baby may even be harmful. Okay. So, these are the points which as a nurse we need to keep in mind. We need to identify what are those things which can harm a newborn baby, because our basic concern is the children who are born in a society, the mothers who are giving birth, their health has to be protected and baby should be healthy. The mother's health has to be focused upon, and these are intricately related to the prevailing culture. Okay. And what is culture? These are the ideas, customs and social behavior of a particular group or a society. Okay. So, what is culture? These are ideas, customs and social behavior of a particular group of people or a society. Okay. So, pediatricians when they are living, so they are living in a multicultural world where all places, whether it is India or whether it is abroad, all places have their own culture. And among the world's 6 billion people residing in 200 countries, more than 6,000 languages are there. Okay. So, that is the, so based on the language also different language people have their own culture. Okay. So, as global population becomes more mobile integrated, ethnic and economic diversity increases in all countries. We know that, especially if you take example of US, there are many Indians, many Pakistanis who are going and staying there. So, they have their own community. Africans are there, the US people who are born and brought up there, they are there. In our country also we have different culture right from Jammu and Kashmir to Kanyakumari. We have different languages, we have different norms, different religions, which guides what to do and what not to do. Okay. So, in 2000 census, 25 to 30% of Americans self-identified as belonging to ethnic or racial minority groups. See, out of 100%, approximately 25 to 30%, they identified themselves as being minority. Okay. So, one or both parents of approximately 17 million children in USA are foreign born, and 1 in 5 children lives in an immigrant family. Okay. So, that is the status. So many children living with others, and they have parents who are from different parts of the world. So, this influences the child care norms. So, within cultures there are frameworks for classifying and organizing family, assigning roles and responsibilities based on age, gender and other social groupings, and defining concepts such as knowledge, cause of disease and health. Okay. So, within the culture, suppose if you have one culture, what is important is depending on that culture, there are frameworks which classify and organize assigning roles. Okay. In some places the father has the sole responsibility of earning, and the mothers will be totally looking after taking part in the family, but there may be some roles which are assigned to grandparents, there are some roles which are assigned to mothers. So, different groups have their own specifications of how they are assigning the roles and responsibilities, and these roles and responsibilities are based on age. Second is gender, whether they are male and female. So, maybe social groups which they are having. Social groups might be For example, here also in Hindu culture we have Brahmins, Kshatriyas, then different Shudras. Okay, so high caste people, low caste people. So there are certain functions which can be performed only by Brahmins, and there are certain functions which cannot be performed by Shudras. So such type of class distinction, and based on their social groupings, their role is defined. And defining concepts such as knowledge, cause of disease and health, and at the same time the senior members of the groups, whatever knowledge they are having regarding the cause of disease and health, so that plays a very important role. So now things have changed to a great extent. In olden times, disease were thought to be caused by evil spirits, and because diseases were thought to be caused by evil spirit, so instead of giving medicines, children or maybe people were taken to those people who are trained in removing the evil spirits. So that was a great concern. Many people died. Many people have died due to these concepts. Okay, so defining concepts such as knowledge, cause of disease and health. So disease typology means disease classification, prevention, intervention support, and health practitioners are culturally defined. Okay, suppose if a baby is to be born, in some cultures the mother is not taken to a hospital, but specific communities have their own specific guys are there, so they will be coming to take the delivery. Okay, and in tribal groups this becomes a very important factor. So health related cultural beliefs and practices are integrated within the health systems. So this includes biomedicine as well as the traditional medicine. Now what is the importance of cultural issues in nursing? Okay, cultural factors such as belief system and a view of world influence the patient and the family response to health. Okay, so cultural factors, they influence the patient, and this also influence the family response towards the health. Okay, so these cultural beliefs and behaviors influence the adherence to treatment plan. So depending on their culture, they will decide whether they have to continue with this or they will not continue with the treatment plan. Okay, for example, adoption of family planning practices. Okay, so some people will be telling this is our personal problem, no need for you to tell about controlling our family. Okay, so it is their belief system, and depending on the belief, they will decide whether they would like to adopt family planning contraceptive methods or they will not be adopting, or suppose if it is a disease, whether they will be taking the treatment or they will not be taking the treatment. Okay, so these are the different issues. So cultural influences the assignment of gender roles, perception of disease, and perception of side effects of disease and the treatment the child should receive. Okay, depending on the different culture, there are assignment of gender roles. What are gender roles? Those functions which has to be done by the girl, some functions which has to be done by the boys. So depending on the type of culture, specific roles are defined according to culture. Not only roles, but the perception of the disease. Perception, as I was telling, it was thought to be due to evil spirits, or maybe due to cold foods, etc., etc. So many cultures have their own interpretation of causation of disease. Then is perception of side effect of the disease, and next is treatment. So this all depends on the culture. Okay. Now nurses can often recognize a family's health related culture perception and interpretation through discussion and observation. Okay. For example, I will give you an example. Suppose if you see a nurse is there who is posted in pediatric ward, and you have a tribal family whose child is admitted in the ward, and the mother is giving a glass of water to the child. The nurse observes that the mother is using her sari palla. Okay, she is not using another cloth; she is using a sari palla to filter the water. Okay, the water which is there in the glass is already filtered. Suppose if you take example of our hospital, it is already a treated water. Okay, it is fit for drinking, but because of the culture which is prevailing, what the nurse sees that the mother is using her sari palla, which she is wearing, already wearing maybe for 1 or 2 days, and she is covering the glass with her sari palla and pouring water through that sari palla, and this sari palla will be acting as filter. Okay. Suppose if the nurse is seeing this, and why she is doing so, because their culture, this is what they have been doing for a very long time. Okay. Now, the nurse can recognize the family's health related cultural perceptions and interpretations either by observation or by discussion. Okay. Now, if this is the condition, what she can do is she can tell the pros and cons. She can tell, see, the sari which you are wearing is so dirty. Many of these microorganisms cannot be seen by eyes. If you use the sari instead of making it clean, this is now more contaminated because you are using a used sari. Okay. And because it is treated water, there is no need to filter it again. So, these things can be told and explained. This can be told and explained. Okay. And so, it is the nurse's responsibility to recognize the family's health related culture perceptions and interpretation. And what is interpretation? The mother will be telling, हम तो छान के दे रहे हैं. Okay. So, this is how they are interpreting. So, we need to observe and then we need to explain. They should explore and consider implications of these perceptions while planning culturally appropriate intervention. Okay. So, this as a nurse, they have to explore, and then the implications of these implications means just the same example which I had given. This has to be kept in mind while we are planning culturally appropriate interventions. Okay. So, the nurse must be comfortable having discussions with families about their cultural beliefs and practice. Okay. So, if the nurse has to give the culturally appropriate nursing care, so she needs to discuss these issues. Now, what are the component of cultural competencies? First is cultural awareness, a cognitive process through which the nurse appreciates and is sensitive to the cultural values of the patient and family. First is being aware that these cultures exist, cultures are always there, cultural practices are existing, because of which it is affecting the care of it is affecting the health of the newborn babies and children. Okay. So, this is a cognitive process through which the nurse appreciate and she becomes sensitive to what the cultural values of patient and family. Second is cultural knowledge. She first is she sensitive. Yes, there are some cultural issues which are affecting a newborn baby. Now, second is cultural knowledge. Now, what is that? The foundation of nurse builds through formal and informal education that include world's views of different cultures, values, beliefs, and participation of health and illness. Second point is, first she has to become sensitive. Third is she has to acquire knowledge about these cultural practices. Okay. Suppose in Chhattisgarh, when I was a student long back, so we used to get babies who used to die due to septicemia, and if you examine the abdomen, the abdomen of newborn babies were burnt. They were burnt using a sickle. Okay. The sickle matlab hasiya. Okay. So, the tip of the sickle was made red hot, and the abdomen of the baby in circular motion, there were multiple burnt wounds, and many children used to die due to septicemia. And what is a cultural belief? That if you do this, then abdominal pain will not be there. So, this practice was very rampant when I was a student, but now things have changed. Okay. So, what is cultural knowledge? To know about these things, and from here, where do we get this information? This comes through formal and informal education, and knowing the world views of different cultures, values, beliefs, and participation about health and illnesses. So, we need to gather information from formal sources, from informal sources, from internet and books, etc., from where we can get it. Okay. So, first is being sensitive, second is to get the knowledge related to these cultural beliefs. Third is cultural skill. Now, what is cultural skill? The ability to include culture data in the nursing assessment through collection of cultural data in the health interview and observation. Then once she is taking interview, she has to ask about cultural practices. She has to ask about cultural practices. Okay. For example, in many of the cultures, when newborn baby is born, before starting the breastfeeding, they give pre-lacteals. So, this may be honey, this may be ghee, different people, this may be janam gutti, etc., etc. Okay. So, we know that pre-lacteals if you give, this can the pre-lacteals what you are giving may cause a gastrointestinal infection. Okay. The taste is different, that may be more sweet. Suppose if you give honey, that may be more sweet, and then this child is not ready to be breastfed because breast milk is not so sweet. Okay. So, these are cultural issues. So, the ability to include cultural data in the nursing assessment by health interview and by observation. Okay. Next is cultural encounter. What is that? The process through which the nurse seeks opportunity to engage in cross cultural activities directly or indirectly. Okay. So, then she has to come and seek opportunity to engage in cross cultural activities, maybe directly or maybe indirectly. Okay. So, this we have to create awareness that these practices, these harmful cultural practices has to be avoided. So, for that we need a cultural encounter, maybe with the family and senior family members, maybe directly or maybe indirectly. Okay. Next is cultural desire. What is that? The genuine and sincere motivation of work effectively with minority client can only be achieved if the individual wants to encourage in the process of acquiring cultural competence. Okay. So, if there has to be a cultural desire. Okay. So, what is that? The genuine and sincere motivation to work effectively through minority client. Minority people are usually immigrant people who have migrated from different areas, and because they are maybe 1 or 2% of the population, but they have their own culture which strongly influences health. So, in that capacity, as a nurse, there has to be a sincere and genuine motivation to work with this minority group. Okay. So, this can be achieved only if the individual wants to engage in the process of acquiring cultural competence. Okay. So, this can be only done if the nurse wants to be culturally competent. Now, these are some cultural practices possibly considered abusive. What are those practices? I have included some data of India, and I have also included some data from outside India also. Okay. First is coining. What is coining? A Vietnamese practice that may produce welt-like means this urticaria type of reddish erythema type of lesions. Okay. So, this may produce a welt-like lesions on the child's back when the edge of the coin is repeatedly rubbed lengthwise on oiled skin to get rid of the body of disease. Okay. So, this is a cultural practice of Vietnam. So, what they do is they apply oil on the back of the child and they use a coin and they rub with friction again and again. So, when the back is rubbed lengthwise again and again, so this causes a welt-like lesions. Okay. So, this can cause harm to the child, and why are they doing so? Because they believe that if you do this, the body gets rid of the disease. Second is cupping. What is that? An old world practice of placing a container containing steam against the skin to draw out poison or their evil elements. So, what they do is they take a container and it contains steam and they fix it in whichever area where they feel poison is there or evil elements are there. So, when the heated air within the container cools, a vacuum is created, and the place where vacuum is created, because it contains a hot steam. So, this produces a bruise like blemish and the skin directly beneath the mouth of the container. So, where this vacuum is created when the steam gets cooled, so that area becomes red and may become even burned, because we know that steam is has more amount of latent heat. Okay. So, the chances of burn injuries are more, and this is cupping. Okay. Keeping a container with steam and you fix it in a particular place of the skin and you leave it. So, as the steam cools off, a vacuum is created and the place of contact with the mouth of that container, this causes a burn injury. Okay. So, this is cupping, and what is the reason why they do so? Because they feel that if they do this, it will help to bring out the poison and their evil elements. Okay. Next is burning. So, the same thing which I was telling about in Chhattisgarh also, it was very common maybe 30 years before. A practice some Southeast Asians where group whereby small area of skin are burned to treat. So, here it was to treat the abdominal pain or to take out the gas, but here it is to treat enuresis and temper tantrums. To treat that, the people were burned, children were burned. Next is female genitalia mutilation. This is still going on in African tribals. So, what they do is, you must have heard about circumcision. Circumcision is cutting off the foreskin of male Muslim boys. Okay. So, this is circumcision. So, it is their cultural practices that for all male babies the circumcision is done, but now people have become more aware. So, they do not go to the religious authorities, but they come to a OT where circumcision is done in a sterile manner. So, that the chances of infections are there, but this is female genitalia mutilation. Can you say this? This is the pointed instrument, tribal instrument, which is used to cut the female genitalia. So, what they do is they cut the clitoris. Okay. And so, they keep the child over a particular rock and they cut it, and there are religious leaders who are doing this. Okay. And once it is done, it is not, then the urination, passing urine becomes very, very painful, and it is not for a day or two, but it occurs for throughout the life. So, I had read about such an incident in a book section in Reader's Digest. So, there that person had mentioned the trauma of having the female genitalia cut by the religious leaders when she was very, very small, and the trauma she had to undergo to pass urine each time. It was very, very painful, and then she had to undergo a reconstructive surgery to manage this problem. Okay. So, these are the cultural practices which are badly harmful. So, this occurs in Africa, North America and Australia. Next is topical garlic application. Can you see this? This is garlic burns. Okay. So, a practice of Yemenite Jews in which crushed garlic petroleum jelly plaster is applied to the wrist to treat infection, to treat infectious disease. This is even common in India. I have seen garlic burn. So, to treat dermatitis, or to treat scabies. Scabies was common when I was a student. So, in those days, what people in some culture, what they do is, they instead of using medicines, so they apply this garlic, the garlic juice, and instead of the treatment of eczema, you end up with having garlic burns. Okay. So, this causes blisters and garlic burn. Okay. So, what they do is they apply crushed garlic petroleum jelly plaster, and it is applied to wrist to treat the infectious diseases. So, this can result in blisters and garlic burn. In some diseases, what they do is India, Pakistan and Nepal, the baby is considered unclean, which promotes early, that is within less than 6 hours of birth, bathing of newborn. So, what they believe that the newborn baby is unclean. So, they have to give birth within 6 hours. So, if you give birth, the earlier you give birth, the more chances of hypothermia, and hypothermia even can cause death of the baby. Okay. So, there are studies which describes that in India, Pakistan and Nepal, children, because they are considered unclean, so they are given bath before 6 hours of birth. Okay. In less than 6 hours of birth. In Tanzania, the baby is bathed with cold water immediately after birth, because the cultural belief is that this cleans the baby and makes him or her strong. Okay. We 20 to 30 years ago, giving baby bath was a normal routine in labor room, but now things have changed. We do not give bath now. We just only clean the baby. If some blood or meconium is there, we clean. we do not remove the vernix. When I was a student, removing vernix was the a major role which we used to do. We used to use liquid paraffin, and some children had more vernix, and by that time we removed the vernix by using liquid paraffin, and then we used to give bath. The baby was cyanosed, the baby was hypothermic, so many issues were there. Okay. But now things have changed. Why? Because research findings have indicated that these are wrong practices. But in Tanzania, but there we used to use lukewarm water, but here the baby is bathed with cold water immediately. And what is the reason? Because they feel that it will clean the baby. Second is, it makes the baby strong. Next is Rethra et al. In 2019, they reported in North Karnataka that in 15.5% of the mothers were discarding the colostrum. Can you see this difference, colostrum and mature milk? So, this was considered as witch's milk, chudail ka doodh. Okay? So, people, because colostrum does not look like milk, it is sticky, it is yellowish in color, this is less in amount, much less in amount as compared to mature milk. So, people used to discard. Then WHO a few years back, their theme in the newborn week was feeding within half an hour of birth. Now, it is 1 hour of birth. Okay. So, that was the theme in this theme of WHO, it led to formation of policy decisions of ensuring that each of the baby who is born in the hospital should be fed as early as possible within 1 hour of birth, so that the colostrum is not discarded. Okay. So, this not only gives colostrum to the baby, which is having a lot many advantages to the baby, and at the same time the mother also has reduced chance of having PPH. Okay. Second is Khan et al. In 2019, he reported that 41% of the mothers were giving colostrum, rest were not giving. Next is Gajju et al. 57 mothers believe that colostrum to be unhygienic. So, their attitude was colostrum should not be given because it is unhygienic. Okay. So, depending on the perceptions they are, the newborn baby gets suffered. Next is about umbilical cord. Cutting umbilical cord with bamboo piece or through crushing by a stone, and the newborn feeding practices like herbal paste and goat's milk. So, in tribal groups, this is a finding from Orissa based on. So, what they do is they cut the cord by using a bamboo piece, or what they do is they cut the cord by crushing a stone, by crushing it by a stone, and the baby is fed with herbal paste or maybe goat's milk. In some areas, cords are left open, the turmeric powder is applied, maybe mustard oil is applied, and ash is also applied. Okay. And bathing, what they do is they bathe immediately after birth. There is late initiation of breastfeeding, and most of the babies are massaged with mustard oil and turmeric to remove the vernix. Okay. So, whatever vernix is there, the baby is massaged by using mustard oil and turmeric. Okay. So, we know that vernix is helps to keeps the baby warm. Okay. Vernix helps to keep the baby warm. If you try to remove it, then the chances of hypothermia is still more. Okay. So, these are all harmful practices. The next is management of breathing problem at home delivery. Okay. So, what they do is they splatter water on face, they do chest massage, even slapping is done, they make loud noise with plate and blowing air into the ear. Okay. So, this is how they managed, people are managing respiratory problem at home delivery. If the baby is if the baby is having a fast respiration, okay, or if the baby is having tachypnea, cyanosis also might be there. So, what they do is they splatter water on face, then they do a chest massage, they even slap the child, they make a loud noise, and what they do is they blow air into the ear. So, they feel that this is how the breathing problem is managed. Initial feeding habits can be ghee, can be honey and black tea, can be breast milk with colostrum, maybe breast milk without colostrum, maybe cow's milk or formula feed. Again, will differ on where the baby is born. Next is cultural customs about childcare in India. The navel area was soaked with warm oil twice daily, followed by regular warm compression to help the umbilical cord become dry and fall early. The basic intention was to somehow ensure that the cord should fall down. Okay. So, this is a normal process, we did not do anything, but what in some cultures is they soak the navel area with warm water. See, soaking area with warm water again will predispose for umbilical sepsis, okay, especially if the container which is using is dirty, and followed by regular warm compression. How do we give warm compression? You may be dipping a cloth in warm water, wringing out the water and then compressing the umbilical cord. No need to do all these practices. Okay. So, what they felt that this will help the cord to become dry and fall early. Then clove oil and surma. What is surma? It is coal. Kajal, surma is kajal. Okay. So, this were mainly used indigenously made substances applied to the umbilical cord in Pakistan. So, what in Pakistan in some places what they do is they used to apply surma or kajal on the umbilical cord. Okay. And this is indigenously made. Indigenously मतलब जिस जगह का है वही वही लोग बनाए हैं. So, that is called as indigenous made. And some similarly mustard seed oil is mostly used in communities of Nepal. Okay. In Pakistan they are using surma or a coal, and in Nepal they are using mustard seed oil to use on the umbilical cord. And some people believe that if the umbilical cord is cut, it would interfere in the natural expulsion of placenta, and the placenta may move upward inside the mother and cause some harm. So, in some community what they believe is umbilical cord should not be cut unless and until the placenta is expelled out. So, what they feel is if they cut the umbilical cord, then the natural process of expulsion of placenta may be hampered. Then some people scrap off vernix immediately after the delivery, and this was considered to be a cleaning process. So, different communities have their own practices of giving newborn care. Okay. Next is colostrum were discarded before giving the mother a bath. Okay. So, before you give a bath to the mother, the colostrum were discarded, and many of the people, many of the mothers were not knowing the importance of colostrum to the babies. Okay. And common belief among trained birth attendants and mothers was that a child swallows waste impurities in the feed, which needs to be cleansed through prelacteal feeds. Okay. I was talking about prelacteal feeds in 3-4 slides before. So, prelacteals का मतलब क्या है? That's those things which are given before breastfeeding. So, that they are called as prelacteals. So, prelacteals can be janam gutti, can be ghee, can be honey, can be goat's milk, can be some herbal paste. Different communities have their own way of giving it, and what they feel is many of the trained birth attendants also, okay, they and the mothers feel that the baby has already taken bad things inside the womb. When the baby was inside the womb, to remove those things, the baby has to be given prelacteal feeds. Okay, this is what they believe. Then is Epstein pulse. Can you see this? Can you see this? This is Epstein pulse. Okay, whitish. Okay, small white and yellow cystic vesicles. Okay, this is a minor disorder of the newborn, nothing to be done. So, Epstein pulse are small white or yellow cystic vesicles, often seen in the median palatal raphe of the mouth of the newborn, and this occurs in 65 to 85% of the newborns. Okay. And in the local language, this is called as budu. Okay. And this budu means wet, and once the neonate is having budu means once the child was having this Epstein pulse. How do they find out? When the child cries, we can see that Epstein pulse. Okay. So, he or she was giving cold bath at least twice daily. So, this newborn baby is having their Epstein pulse. What they do is they give cold bath, not once but twice daily. Okay. So, this badly affects the neonatal health, and budu babies are prone to hypothermia. Okay. Now, to conclude, the nurse needs to consider the client's cultural differences when providing care. We need to keep in mind, we need to keep our mind open, which are the culture of which are dealing, what are the cultural practices, is it harmful or not, or can we discuss it, all these things the nurse has to be vigilant enough. So, understanding the various beliefs regarding the causation of illnesses and disease, as well as tradition of health practice is essential to successful intervention. So, I was talking about Epstein pulse. So, if people are giving bath with cold water, so they need to be talked that this is not the way how you remove the Epstein, because Epstein pulse is a minor disorder, it will go away of its own, no treatment is required. But if you use cold water, that is bathing twice a day with cold water to a newborn baby, this may cause severe hypothermia which can even take the life of the child. So, this has to be told to the responsible people. To know about the values, beliefs and customs of ethnic group and how to elicit this information from their families, and the better they are able to meet the need of the families and to gain their cooperation and compliance. Okay. So, to find out about their cultural beliefs and practices and customs, so the nurse has to be proactive and she has to be patient enough and take the interest to find out what are the harmful practices which are affecting, and she has to gain their cooperation and compliance, so that she can reinforce the right things about the newborn care. Okay. So, that was all about ethical and cultural practices, and today's class was on cultural practices. I hope I thank you all of you for a patient listening. Thank you.